Hello, lovely humans. I lied to you, and for that, I'm sincerely sorry. I believe that I titled this video something like, Every Book I'm Reading This Summer, or My Summer Reading List, and that's not true. These are the books that I will be reading approximately from June 23rd to August 7th, because for that time, I will be in the mountains on a family trip with no service or Wi-Fi or anything like that, so I will not be able to use my phone. So during that time, and during this trip every year, I read just so many books. With me, I'm bringing, I think, 19 full-length books with me in order to occupy my time, and I thought that today I would take you through them. Also, mild spoilers for every book that I bring up. Obviously, I haven't read any of these yet, but there is some stuff that I know about some of them. So if you, really don't want to know anything before you go in, then maybe skip over this one. All right, the first book that I'm bringing with me is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This thing is massive, and I don't think it will fit in my duffel bag full of books that I'm going to bring, so I don't know exactly what I'm going to do there. But I've never read any Tolstoy before, and everybody in my life has been telling me to read Anna Karenina, and I really wanted to, but I never really had the time to. This will probably be the last book that I read on this trip, because I think it is likely I will be ahead of my roughly a book every 2 days pace when I'm there, so I will probably have some days left over to tackle this 800-page monstrosity. Do I have a paperback version of it behind me that would be a lot lighter and easier to bring? Yes. Do I like this cover more? And I'm going to bring this one instead? Also yes. I know nothing about this book. I know that it is about a woman named Anna Karenina. I know that her husband cheats on her, or maybe she cheats on her husband. And I know that at the end she gets hit by a train. I really hope that I love it, because if I don't, then it's going to be a slog to get through. And honestly, if I'm not feeling it, I'll probably DNF this one, because I'm not going to waste so much valuable reading time on this book. So, the next book that I'm bringing is Ultra Processed People by Chris Van Tulleken, something like that. This book has been on my radar for a while, because a teacher of mine actually recommended it to me and told me that he was really, really enjoying it. So I was interested in it. I've also heard that Tulleken's takes on processed food in the industry are very empathetic, which is something that I feel that a lot of the time it's lacking, because obviously the idea of only eating organic and natural food, and the people that are allowed to do that are probably upper class and non-disabled people, which is obviously not the entire population. And I've heard that this book is much less don't eat anything that has ingredients you can't pronounce, and more, why do we live in a world that makes everybody need to eat so many things that aren't good for them? And also, there's a blurb by Chris Evans, who I think is the actor, and usually I don't see books blurbed by A-list movie stars, but I mean, if Chris liked it, then maybe I'll like it too. So that's Ultra Processed People. This one hurts me. So this is Devotions by Mary Oliver. I've read a Mary Oliver poetry collection before this. I do not remember what it was called. It was much shorter than this is. I picked this book up in a Canadian airport, and it has a Read with Jenna, I don't know who Jenna is, sticker on it. You cannot take it off. It is merged onto the cover, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful cover. And there's that stupid, ugly sticker. The cover is in black and white. The sticker is not in black and white. This was recommended to me, and the person that recommended it to me told me that it was such a great poem to read in nature. And since I'll be spending a lot of time in nature on this trip, I thought maybe give it a shot. And even though it's long, obviously it's a poetry collection, so it's a lot of line breaks, a lot of empty pages. So I'm very excited for this one, actually. I haven't read a lot of poetry collections recently, so this will be my first one of 25, for sure, and I'm excited to get into it. The next book that I am bringing is The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis. I have wanted to read this book for ages. I went to a really big privately owned bookstore, and I asked them for it, and nobody knew what I was talking about. And I really wanted to get it, so I went to my local Barnes & Noble, and everyone knew what I was talking about. So I as far as I know about this book, this is autofiction about a serial killer who was killing, I think, teenage boys in the 80s in LA. That's kind of all I know about this book. I know that it is very atmospheric, and I think that the main character, who is Bret Easton Ellis, I'm pretty sure, is a closeted queer man. I think he's bisexual. I think he's a closeted bisexual man, and I think there's a man there in LA that he's either in love with or thinks is the killer, or maybe both. One of my favorite tropes in literature, and this is a trope genre-wide, is somebody being very afraid of someone finding something out about them or about something that they did. I think that is so much scarier than any like monster you can think up. And I think that this book will give me exactly what I want with that, so I'm very excited to get into it. It's pretty long. It doesn't look all that long, but the print is really small. But I really like this cover. And I like, too, that because it's autofiction, Bret Easton Ellis's author photo is like him as a child, which I think is funny. So yeah, I'm excited for this. It's been a really long time since I've read any autofiction, and there's another piece of autofiction in here. So I'm really excited for this one, definitely. The next book that I'm bringing with me is Nevada by Imogen Binney. This book has a really interesting story behind it. So Imogen Binney is a trans woman. And apparently when she was first going through her transition, I don't know when she transitioned, I think when she was an adult, she was constantly thinking to herself, what if somebody had come down from the heavens and told me that I was trans when I was a teenager? What would my life have been like? How much better would my life have been? But then as she got older, she decided to write a book about it. She decided to write a book about what her life would have been like if somebody had come down and told her that she was trans. And she did that through this novel, Nevada, which is about, as far as I know, a trans woman who meets this teenage boy and like tries to convince him that he is a trans woman. And I'm assuming that it doesn't go well. But I obviously do not know. I haven't read it yet. And I'm excited for this because I love a book that tells you something about the author. That is one of my favorite things. I think that obviously all books tell you something about the author, but to have one that tells you this directly, and it's kind of similar with the Shards as well, is really, really fascinating and like a look into somebody's psyche that I don't think you get very often. The next book that I am bringing is Sally Rooney's Intermezzo. I need to read this because I borrowed this almost a year ago. Not from the library, from a family member, and I need to get it back to her. So I gotta read this now. This book has some of the most mixed reviews for any book that I have ever seen in my life. I have people saying that it's amazing, that they love it, that it's their favorite Sally Rooney book, it's their favorite book, and I have people saying, I hated it. If you're gonna read Sally Rooney, don't read this one. So I really don't know what to think about Intermezzo, but I'm definitely excited for it. As far as I know, it is about two boys, I think they're brothers, and their father dies. And they both start relationships with women. And that's kind of it. I'm assuming there's something more to it because that's like a lot of books. But that's what I know about this book. I also really like the cover. It's a chessboard and the chess pieces, but the silhouettes or the shadows are people. And I like that. I think it's cool. I think it's an interesting idea. The next book, and one of the only works of fantasy that I'm bringing, is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This, yet again, has a sticker. It has a Netflix original series sticker on it, and I hate that. It's so ugly. But other than that, I really like this cover. And I know that this was turned into a TV show, and I know that there are a lot of spin-off novels, and that's kind of it. I really don't know anything else. I don't like to read blurbs. I think that blurbs give too much away. I really just like to stick to what I know about the book. So, yeah. I know nothing about this one, like, at all. I think it's, like, YA fantasy saving the world. The next book that I'm bringing is Roses in the Mouth of the Lion by Bushra Rehman. This book, it was recommended to me by the same person that recommended Shadow and Bone. And as far as I know, it is about a Muslim girl growing up in Queens, and it's kind of just her life told through a series of vignettes. The next book that I'm bringing is Random Acts of Medicine by Anupam B. Jena and Christopher Warsham. This is a book, as far as I know, about just like a series of like odd medical things, and I love that. I love a book that has tangents. I love a book that's like a series of small ideas, especially if it's nonfiction, which this is. And I love a book about medicine. The next book that I'm bringing, and because there will be children where I am, I have to put duct tape over this woman's chest, is Perfume, the Story of a Murderer by Patrick Suskind. He has an umlaut over the U in his name. I don't know how to say it. And again, I know very little about this book. It looks very short, but it actually is pretty long. The text is super, super small. As far as I know, this is about a man that kills, I think, primarily women, because he was born with a heightened sense of smell, and he is trying to find the perfect scent. I don't know how those two things connect to each other. I don't know if he, like, uses their blood or, like, their skin. I really don't know. But I am very excited for this because I heard, same with the Shards, Bret Easton Ellis, it is very atmospheric. And that's really good. I love a book with some atmosphere. I love a book that kind of really takes you there. I believe it is set in 18th century France, maybe I think Paris. And I also think that he spends about 4 years of his life living in a cave. The next book that I'm reading is Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu. This I'm very excited for. Same person recommended me this that recommended me Roses in the Mouth of the Lion and Shadow and Bone. This is actually her copy, so I have to give this back to her. This won the National Book Award, which is an award that it's mostly given to books that I really, really like. And this is also written like a screenplay, which I think is really cool. I also really don't know what it's about. I think that it is probably about Chinese American racism, based on what I know. And I've also heard that it's very funny, which is good, because a lot of these books are really heavy. So I'm excited for them. We did a book I was excited to read. Now here's a book that I'm not excited to read, which is 1L, The Turbulent True Story of a First Year at Harvard Law School. My father recommended this to me. He told me that I should read it. I just don't really care. I don't really care that much about a man's semester at Harvard. I think that it's going to be very pretentious. And maybe that's stereotyping. I think it's mostly about a Socratic seminar, which is something that I find interesting, but maybe not interesting to read a 250-page memoir about. But maybe it will be really good. Maybe it'll make me want to be a lawyer. I don't think so, but maybe. I also really do like this cover, although I think that it suffers from the same issue that Random Acts of Medicine does, which is it's too small. It's too small. This photo of the library is beautiful, but it's way too small. The title is too long. And Scott, your name could be at the bottom. It doesn't have to be at the top. Your name could be within these shelves of books. Shift the whole thing up. Okay? The next book that I'm bringing is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This is a book that I'm very excited for, and also a book that I know I'm a little bit late to the party on, and I also don't know very much about it. I think it is about a woman who gets trapped under the sea in a submarine for, I think, months. I think she gets trapped there for, 6 months, I want to say. And it's kind of about, the aftermath of that. It's about how she reconnects with her wife afterwards and all the trauma that she went through. I've also heard that this book has a lot of marine biology related tangents in it, and I love that. That's one of my most niche book interests. I love a book with tangents. I want her to stop telling the story to tell me about a starfish. Please and thank you. Do that, and I'm excited for it. It's also very short. And I wanted to get the other cover. You know what I'm talking about. I put it on the screen, the one with the woman and she has water dripping down her face. And I couldn't find it, but I am very excited for this, and I think it's going to be really, really good. The next book that I'm bringing is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. My feelings on The Invisible Life of Ada LaRue, which is also by V.E. Schwab, are layered and very intense, and I think that's for another video and not for today. But I did like her writing. Her writing was not a complaint that I had on The Invisible Life of Ada LaRue, and I'm excited for this. I know nothing about this book. I got it the day after it came out. I paid $35 for it because I could only find it at one bookstore, and it's a signed copy. I think it's about lesbian vampires, which sounds wonderful, but that's kind of it. I do not know anything else. The next book that I'm bringing, which I'm very excited about, is Oliver Sacks's Awakenings. I love Oliver Sacks. The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat was 5 stars. I think that's the first book that I read this year. I read it at a bowling alley during a New Year's Eve party. That's how invested in it I was. And I am very excited for this book. What I think this book is about, which is something that he mentions a lot in The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, is that Oliver Sacks invented a drug called L-Dopa, which woke patients up from comas, and then they all went back into their comas. And I think that this is about this. I think there's a movie about it. I think Danny DeVito was in it. Is that possible? I'm probably wrong. I'm probably making that up. But I'm really excited for this book. I think it's going to be really sad. I also think it's going to be really good. I love the way that Sacks writes. He grips your attention, even though I am not a doctor and I don't know a lot of things that he's talking about. He really does explain them to you very, very well. I'm excited about that. Next book is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. This is American Psycho. I don't really know what else I can say about it. And I know almost nothing about American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. I have not seen the movie. However, my only experience with the movie is that when I was 8 or 9, someone was explaining the plot of it to me. And instead of saying Patrick Bateman, they said Jason Bateman. And I went longer than is acceptable, thinking that Jason Bateman kills a bunch of people, then got out of prison and became a movie star. And I was terrified of Jason Bateman. I thought that Jason Bateman was going to come and get me. It was Patrick Bateman, not Jason Bateman. And whoever said that to me when I was 8 on the playground, you caused me a lot of nightmares. So thank you. But it's American Psycho. I heard it's amazing. And I really hope that I like Bret Easton Ellis' writing style, because I haven't read anything of his, and if I don't like it, I'm in for a long summer. The next book that I'm bringing is Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robertson. This is book 1 of the Mars trilogy, which I think you have to give your trilogy a more interesting name than that, and I've heard that this is just hard sci-fi. They tell you the math, hard sci-fi, and I love that. One of my favorite books, 2 of my favorite books of all time, are The Martian and Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I love Andy Weir. He's written 3 novels like that. They're all just about people that are good at science being good at science. He also wrote a novel called Artemis, which I thought was also pretty good, but it really did fall into that trap of he wanted to write a strong female character, and the way that he did that was every second paragraph she would be like, I'm strong, I can do it just like the men can. Like, yeah, we know you can do it just like the men can, so show us that you can do it. Just stand around talking about it. But I've heard this is hard sci-fi. I've heard that the characterization isn't as good as it is in The Martian or in Prejudice, which really is one of Andy Weir's strongest points, is his extremely strong characterization. But I am excited for this. And the final book in my bag is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. No, I have not read this book. I am so bad at reading classics. I'm so sorry. But I am excited for it. I took a Myers-Briggs personality test in order to try to get book recommendations for myself. I am an INTJ, I think. And the first book that Goodreads told me about was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And I really do want to read it. I hate this cover. I'm sure that somewhere in this library there is a better cover. And if I can find it, I will take that one. But I just don't like it. I don't like the cartoon covers on classic books. I really don't. But I really do trust this list because, like, the third book on the list was The Martian by Andy Weir. So I trust it. And yeah, it's Pride and Prejudice. But I'm hoping that I like this. And also, it's such a small book. And I think that the height will trick me into thinking it's shorter than it is. So maybe even if I hate it, I'll finish it. As for what I am reading right now, Jacob Tierney, the director of Letterkenny, has announced that he will be writing and directing a 6-episode television show based off of the Game Changers series of hockey romance novels by Rachel Reed. Now, I do not love romance novels. I have never been a romance-first kind of person, which is why it is extremely puzzling that I have set myself the challenge to read all 6 of these books by Sunday. It is currently Wednesday at 4:30, and I have 5.5 more books to get through. So I have to go and do that now. See you, love you, bye.